To run or not to run, that is not the question. It wasn't a choice for this man not to run. Former US President Donald Trump kicked off his campaign trail for 2024 presidential election at the end of January 2023, having gatherings in New Hampshire and South Carolina. Can he survive? That is the question. Hi, I am Yu, your navigator in this channel. Despite adverse circumstances, including the failures in the midterm elections, Trump looks adamant in pursuing and winning the second term for US President. Here is one of the thinkable scenarios of Trump's victory. What is it? Hi again. Former US President Donald Trump has been silent since he announced in November last year his bid for president. On January 28, 2023, he kicked off his campaign by visiting New Hampshire and South Carolina. And on February 14th, former governor of South Carolina and ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, announced her bid for US president, the first major challenger to Trump. But today, we're going to review the development with a focus on Donald Trump. What did Trump say? Investigations and scandals. Polls, Trump versus DeSantis. Simulations. First, let's see what Trump said in the gatherings. Here are some quotes from his speech in South Carolina. What did he say?
This campaign will be about issues. Joe Biden has put America on the fast track to ruin and destruction. 2.5 years, you just take a look at what we did where this country was greatest economy ever. Largest tax cuts in the history of our country, largest regulation cuts in the history of our country. And we had the greatest border in history. And the 2024 election is our one shot to save our country, and we need a leader who is ready to do that on day one. Now the drugs are literally 10 times more than they were just 2 years ago. We need a fighter who can stand up to the left, who can stand up to the swamp, stand up to the media, stand up to the deep state. Am I allowed to say stand up to the rhinos too? I think I can say that. We're going to stop the left-wing radical racists and perverts who are trying to indoctrinate our youth. And the people in the military are so great, but the leadership at top is just a disgrace. That should have never, ever happened. And we had it way down in Afghanistan. Joe Biden has brought us to the brink of World War III. If I was president, there would not have been a war with Russia in Ukraine. I would have a peace deal negotiated within 24 hours.
Touting his own achievements and taunting President Joe Biden. His target is not Biden supporters, though. Biden supporters wouldn't vote for Trump no matter what. His target is Republican voters. Trump is focusing on the Republican primaries. Setting aside anti-Trump Republicans, Trump's words and policies must more or less strike a chord with the Republicans in general, including swing voters. It's true that Trump is under adverse circumstances. In the midterm elections, many of the Trump-endorsed candidates lost, and he's already full of scandals, including January 6th Congress attack. The U.S. House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol pointed out in its final report, central cause of January 6th was one man, former President Donald Trump. and the committee referred several cases to the Department of Justice: obstruction of an official proceeding, conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to make a false statement, incite, assist, or aid and comfort an insurrection. The Attorney General, Merrick Garland, appointed Jack Smith as special counsel and had him investigate into mainly two cases: interfering with the transfer of power, mishandling of classified documents and presidential records. Another investigation is being held in Georgia: Trump's attempt to overturn 2020 election result. Fulton County grand jury has been examining the case. It has reportedly concluded the investigation. In addition to these ongoing investigations, Manhattan jury convicted Trump Organization, Trump's family business, of tax fraud and falsifying business records, and the company was eventually fined $1.6 billion. Trump was not charged in this case, though. But Trump was impeached twice in the U.S. Congress. In both cases, the U.S. Senate voted not guilty. With so many scandals, a politician would be under pressure and it would be difficult to run for an office. However, as you might be well aware, Trump is not that kind of a politician who succumbs to such pressure. He has been saying all the accusations are a witch hunt. He's a tough guy. Meanwhile, another Republican politician is drawing attention: Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. DeSantis is also a very conservative Republican. What kind of politician is DeSantis? Born in Florida, he is now 44 years old. Graduated from Yale University, Harvard Law School. He joined Navy, elected U.S. House Representative, served as U.S. Representative for 3 terms, and he was elected governor of Florida in 2019. And he was elected in last year's midterm election. Recently, he cooperated with Texas Governor Greg Abbott, also an ultra-conservative Republican, and transported migrants from Latin America to New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. What surprised us was a poll conducted and reported by the Wall Street Journal in December 2022. The question was, if the Republican primary or caucus for president were held today, and the candidates were Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, for whom would you vote? DeSantis got 52%, including definitely and probably. Trump got 38%. DeSantis was 14 percentage points ahead. The result of this poll was reported worldwide and gave impression that the influence of Trump was diminishing, or even that Trump was almost doomed. However, many of the following polls indicated that Trump was still a front-runner. At the same time, it's obvious the margin between Trump and DeSantis narrowed. This is the result of a poll by Cygnal comparing the popularity of Trump and DeSantis between October and December last year, 2022. If you compare the popularity by using the same polls, this graph was made based on the polls done by Harvard-Harris. It shows the ups and downs of the two men's popularity from September last year to February this year. The margin used to be 42 percentage points, but it narrowed down to 23. 23 percentage points is a big margin. What is the scenario for Trump's victory in the Republican primaries? First, let's briefly take a look at the process of the presidential primaries and caucuses. In each state and some territories, the Republican Party holds primaries or caucuses to nominate the party's presidential candidate. In a word, primaries are elections and you vote for your favorite candidate. There are different types of primaries, but here, let's say, it's a process of choosing candidate by voting. And caucuses are party gatherings where participants talk and decide which candidate would be ideal for the U.S. president. In primaries and caucuses, candidates gain delegates who participate in the national convention. The Republican National Convention in 2024 will be held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin between July 15th and 18th. The National Convention will officially nominate the party's presidential tickets, which means the candidates for the U.S. President and Vice President. But the nominees will become apparent during the course of primaries and caucuses. After the nomination of each political party, election campaign will continue during the general election. The presidential and vice presidential debates will be held. On November 5, 2024, the presidential election will be held to decide the next U.S. president. So the candidates must first win and gain majority of the delegates in the primaries and caucuses. That is the initial stage. Many of you have heard or read in newspapers that 2016 presidential election was advantageous to Trump because there were many candidates. Let's see what happened in 2016 and how Trump won the nomination of the Republican Party. In the Republican Party primaries, many candidates ran for the president. As a result, the vote splintered. In the very first caucus in Iowa, it was Ted Cruz who won 27% of the votes. Trump was in the second place by receiving 24%. Cruz got 8 delegates, but Trump also got 7. Marco Rubio also gained 23% and got 7 delegates. Trump won in New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, Alabama, Arkansas, but the votes he got didn't reach 50%. Even in a state he lost, like Oklahoma, Trump got 13 delegates by just receiving 28%. But by winning the primaries in the early stage, he became the front-runner and gained momentum. It is understandable he kicked off his campaign in New Hampshire and South Carolina this year. He actually won in the 2 states in 2016 at an early stage. And in April 2016, he won more than 50% of the votes cast in some of the remaining primaries. Take a look at this simulation. Suppose each candidate has the following number of supporters. Candidate D received the most votes. Let's compare this graph with another one. Now candidate A wins. Let's see the first graph again. You may have noticed that the number of candidate A's supporters in the orange color is the same, 30. And the other candidates too. The number of the supporters in yellow color changed. Orange indicates hardcore supporters, and yellow indicates swing voters, and the number depends on turnout or political situation including atmosphere. What's the difference between Trump and DeSantis? Trump has experience in nationwide elections. He ran for the presidential elections in 2016 and 2020. He was committed to the midterm elections in 2018 and 2022. So, he has hardcore supporters across the country. If the number of the hardcore supporters doesn't change, swing voters decide the result. Now, Trump may be losing some supporters. And if another supporter gains popularity and increases base supporters, and also wins more swing voters, it's possible the candidate wins. But candidate A, let's say Trump, may win more popularity during the campaign. It's possible. That's what happened in 2016. But this is just a simulation. It's too early to predict the result of the presidential election now. Biden hasn't even announced his bid for the second term. Is he running? In November last year, he touched upon the possibility of his bid for the second term. What did he say?
Jill and I have, and by the way, it's my wife Jill, who's held a lot more popular than I am in the Democratic Party too. But at any rate, all kidding aside, our intention is to run again. That's been our intention. My judgment of running when I announce, if I announce, my intention is that I run again. But I'm a great respecter of fate, and this is ultimately a family decision. I think everybody wants me to run, but we're going to have discussions about it. And I don't feel in any hurry one way or another to make that judgment, today, tomorrow, or whenever, no matter what my predecessor does. And my guess is it'll be early next year we make that judgment.
Early next year. It's nearly the end of February. How early would Biden decide? Is he really running? He must be waiting for the best timing for the announcement. He's also under adverse circumstances. Documents marked classified were found, and his private home and offices were searched by the FBI. He and his son's connections with the Ukraine and China are going to be investigated in the House of Representatives. What would happen if Biden and Trump faced off today in the presidential election? According to the result of Harvard-Harris poll, Trump is 5 percentage points ahead. But the result of the Quinnipiac Polls shows Biden is leading by 2 percentage points. Biden's recent scandals may be reflected in these polls. The U.S. media point out that there are differences between the Trump's and Biden's cases concerning the discovered classified documents. But media reports always came first, and then Biden admitted later. Can we say he's honest? Trump may be happy with the development. What would happen if Trump lost primaries? There are speculations that he might run as an independent candidate. That would put the Republican Party in hot water. Such a development reminds us of the 1992 presidential election. In the year, an independent candidate, Ross Perot, ran for president, and his policies overlapped those of the Republican Party presidential nominee George Bush, the father. He was running for the second term. The nominee of the Democratic Party was Bill Clinton. Ross Perot was independent but a major candidate. Let's check the number of the votes they got. Bush gained 39.9 million popular votes, and Ross Perot 19.7 million. Together, they received more than 59.6 million votes. That is 15.6 million more than the votes Clinton received. Clinton got 44 million, but the winner was Clinton. If Ross Perot hadn't run, the American history might have been different. If Trump won the nomination, the leadership of the Republican Party would be obliged to support him, even though they wouldn't be happy with such a situation. What we can say for now is how crucial and influential Donald Trump is in the 2024 presidential election. And it's going to be a historic election for sure. I'm Yuyu. I hope you enjoy the possible scenario and simulation. The process of the US presidential election is dramatic. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you soon.